Usual Suspects had a little more acclaim than the Flintstones.
Yes, sir.
Did you have any idea how big the film was going to be coming into it?
No idea. No. I mean, I knew it was going to be cool because of Bryan Singer and his vision. And when they called me about the audition, it was to meet Singer one-on-one, who had seen me in something. I guess he had saw a clip of an audition or something I did previously. And at the time they called me for Usual Suspects, they had already cast Chazz Palminteri, Pete Postlethwaite, and Kevin Spacey. So they called me and said, hey, we want to go check out this movie and go meet the director. So I went and met Bryan Singer. Similar to that Sean Penn kind of thing where, he had this, he's the director, it's different, but he had to have this one-on-one kind of make sure I wasn't a total lunatic and then I was going to do what he wanted. It's a great story. May I tell you just one little nuance? Bryan Singer had just won the Audience Choice Award for Apt Pupil the year before at the
with the Nazi,
Sundance Film Festival.
The old Nazi guy.
Right.
I remember that film, yeah.
So I go to meet this guy who really hasn't done anything, but he's like this kind of up-and-coming directorial genius. So literally, Vlad, I go to meet Bryan Singer and I'm like, hey, so let me save both of us a lot of time here. Let me just tell you what I'm going to do. Let me just tell you the character I've created for the Usual Suspects, and then if you're okay with it, you can cast me. That's basically how I started the meeting with Bryan Singer. And I talked for about 20 minutes in the beginning of the conversation, and when I was done, he literally said to me, are you done? And I went, yeah. So what do you think of my take on the character? And he goes, let's get one thing straight. What's going to happen here is if you come work for me, you're going to do exactly what I tell you. He goes, this character idea you have is great, but keep in mind, basically the way I described it, I was trying to overrun him. I was trying to basically just test him to see, was he going to let me do my own thing, or was he going to be in control of the project? And I know that sounds potentially incidental, but listen to me. When you make great films, if you don't have a director that's totally in control of the vision, it's not going to work. So it was super cool in my first meeting with him to be kind of an asshole to him. I was kind of let me see if this guy's going to be a pushover, so to speak. And he wasn't at all, which was refreshing.
The police lineup scene?
Yeah.
What they say, give me your keys, motherfucker.
You cocksucker motherfucker.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, give me motherfucker. Ah! Everyone's laughing when you're doing it.
Yeah. So
I remember that was a standout part. We all laughed, in the theater when we saw it.
And do you know the backstory to that one?
No.
So I guess Kevin Pollak or somebody said that somebody farted. That's not true. Kevin Pollak, I think, started a great conspiracy theory about someone farting in the police lineup for the Usual Suspects. But that's not what happened. So the scene you see where I hit Benicio and he hits me back, and that's in the movie. So that was a rehearsal. So Bryan Singer filmed a rehearsal. He said, so he's behind the glass with Chris McQuarrie. And when you hear that voice going, all right, number 2, step forward, that's Chris McQuarrie, the writer. And in a rehearsal, like you two are there back there now, if there was glass in front of you, they filmed it that way. So we're really in a police lineup. They're really behind the glass with really the speakers talking to us. And literally they go, okay, rehearsal and action. But they're rolling the cameras and we don't know it.
So they actually used the rehearsal in the final cut.
They used a sequence of filming from rehearsal in the movie, which is brilliant
smart
of Bryan Singer to have done.
Well, Kevin Spacey was essentially the star of the film. You find that out at the end. No, you wouldn't say that?
No, he's Kaiser Soze.
He's Kaiser Soze, right. So you would say he's
We were all favored nations, Vlad, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Forget about it.
And you said that Kevin is one of the greatest American actors of our time.
Kevin Spacey's a brilliant actor, man.
Yeah.
No question.
And I've always thought that too.
But the whole cast was, listen, I'm going to get in trouble right now. If you asked me I mean, walk in Bryan Singer's shoes when he's directing that film. Pete Postlethwaite, being who he is and where he's from, plays a character in this film from India. He has an Indian dialect, but he comes in with like this take on the character that like Bryan Singer's like, cool, let's try. Benicio shows up. You can't even understand what the hell he's talking about pretty much through the whole film. And he goes with that. So I'm just saying, in my opinion, the best actor in the whole film, The Usual Suspects, is Pete Postlethwaite.
Okay.
I think Pete Postlethwaite's performance is more interesting and intriguing than Kevin Spacey's in the film.
Yeah.
Kevin's Kaiser Soze.
Yeah.
Kevin's performance is brilliant. But I thought, I'm into guys like Postlethwaite. I'm into like John Lithgow. I'm into guys who like do these little supporting things that are brilliant.
You know, and Kevin went on to have a huge career. I mean, American Beauty was a huge breakout role for him, and, you know, he had big series and everything else like that. But these days, Kevin Spacey essentially got canceled.
Yeah.
When you see what's happening with him, which, from what I understand, whatever the allegations were ultimately thrown out. The lawsuits were thrown out, and there was no criminal charges or whatever.
It's my understanding that...
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's gay, but who cares, right? How do you feel as someone that's worked with him to see something like that happen to an actor of his caliber? And you know, he even said recently, like, he's broke and he had to sell his house and so forth. And
yeah, I would not know his financial stuff. I would
but
guess,
he said it on Piers Morgan recently. That's why.
Right.
And
but
I do his show a lot.
Kevin's done pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
To go and run the old Vic for as many years as he has and do the thing. I'm sure my guess would be he was probably financially pretty good.
Yeah.
But like you said, once that train of that activity starts, it just becomes freakishly difficult to escape it.
Yeah. I mean, because even his last film, I think they basically just didn't promote it at all. They just dropped it, took a big loss, and he hasn't worked since, which to me is crazy because the skill level is insane. For someone like him.
Right.
But it seems that when the public turns against you for whatever reason, Hollywood just goes along with it and just goes on to the next person. Sad.
Yeah. I've been out of Hollywood for a long time, Vlad.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm just coming back around with my one bad movie.
Yep.
And
your new podcast?
But to what you're saying, I'm going to leave it at this. You know, I think there's a lot of that stuff. I just think that it's just such a creepy time.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, I'm hoping there's going to be, you know, a cleansing of all this in Hollywood in the future that, you know, allows for people to just show up and know their lines and not bump into the furniture and just make great films.